Hello and welcome to this comprehensive video on the role of space in national security and military operations. Space has become an increasingly important factor in a country's national security strategy, and it has also played a vital role in military operations. In this video, we will discuss how space-based assets such as satellites, communication systems, and other technologies are used to enhance national security and military operations. The importance of space in national security. The use of space-based assets for national security has been an essential part of modern warfare for decades. Satellites play a significant role in intelligence gathering, weather forecasting, and communication. They are used to provide high-resolution imagery, real-time video, and other types of data that can help governments monitor and respond to potential threats. One of the most significant advantages of space-based assets is the ability to gather intelligence. Satellites can be used to track the movement of military forces, monitor the activities of terrorist groups, and provide early warning of missile launches. In addition, communication satellites are used to provide secure and reliable communication channels for military forces and government agencies. Weather forecasting is another area where space-based assets are essential. Weather satellites provide critical data on weather patterns, which can be used to plan military operations and prepare for natural disasters. These satellites also play a vital role in monitoring climate change and its potential impact on national security. The role of space in military operations. Space has become a critical domain for military forces in recent years. Satellites are used for navigation, communication, and surveillance, and they can also provide a strategic advantage in a variety of military scenarios. One example is the use of GPS satellites for navigation. GPS is used by military forces around the world to navigate in unfamiliar territory, coordinate troop movements, and guide precision-guided munitions. GPS has become so important to military operations that disrupting or jamming GPS signals is considered a serious threat. Satellites are also used for communication in military operations. Communication satellites provide secure and reliable communication channels for military forces, enabling troops to communicate across long distances and in challenging environments. Finally, satellites are used for surveillance in military operations. Satellites can provide real-time video and imagery of battlefields, which can be used to monitor enemy movements, assess the effectiveness of military operations, and guide decision-making. Threats to space-based assets. While space-based assets have become an essential component of modern national security and military operations, they are also vulnerable to a range of threats. These threats include both natural and man-made factors. One of the most significant threats to space-based assets is space debris. There are thousands of pieces of debris in space, including discarded rocket stages, defunct satellites, and other debris from past space missions. This debris poses a significant risk to active satellites and can cause catastrophic damage if a collision occurs. Another threat to space-based assets is intentional interference. Countries around the world have developed anti-satellite weapons, which can be used to destroy or disable satellites in orbit. Cyber attacks are also a significant concern, as they can be used to disrupt or take control of satellites. Space-based arms control. Space-based arms control has become a critical issue in recent years, as more countries develop space-based assets for national security and military operations. The risk of conflict in space has increased. One of the most significant challenges facing space-based arms control is the lack of an international framework to govern the use of space-based assets. The United Nations has called for the development of an international code of conduct for space activities, but progress has been slow. Some experts have called for the development of arms control agreements for space-based assets. These agreements could include limits on the deployment of anti-satellite weapons and other technologies. That could be one potential approach to space-based arms control is the establishment of treaties similar to those governing nuclear weapons. The Outer Space Treaty, which was signed in 1967, prohibits the deployment of nuclear weapons in space and limits the use of space for peaceful purposes. However, there is currently no treaty that specifically addresses the use of space-based assets for military purposes. This has led some countries to develop anti-satellite weapons and other technologies that could be used to disrupt or disable satellites in orbit. In 2007, China conducted a successful anti-satellite test, destroying one of its own satellites in orbit. This test generated significant debris, which poses a risk to other satellites in orbit. The United States has also developed anti-satellite weapons, and Russia has announced plans to develop similar capabilities. The development of anti-satellite weapons and other technologies that could be used to disrupt or disable satellites in orbit has led to concerns about the potential for a space-based arms race. Some experts argue that the development of arms control agreements for space-based assets is necessary to prevent such a scenario. In conclusion, space-based assets play a vital role in national security and military operations. Satellites are used for intelligence gathering, weather forecasting, navigation, communication, and surveillance, providing critical information that can be used to monitor and respond to potential threats. However, space-based assets are vulnerable to a range of threats, including space debris, intentional interference, and cyber attacks. The lack of an international framework to govern the use of space-based assets has led to concerns about the potential for a space-based arms race. The development of arms control agreements for space-based assets is necessary to prevent such a scenario and ensure that space remains a peaceful domain. As we continue to rely on space-based assets for national security and military operations, it is essential that we work together to address these challenges and ensure that space is used for peaceful purposes.